Cobblestone slowly tapped a wrinkled foreleg on the table. What is it, Cobblestone? Nimby said, visibly aggravated from the uproar. Nimby wanted so much to end the discussion and move onwards. Kind of reminds me of Von Karma, or, well, honestly, I guess...
This is Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, pretty much anyone who's not Pain, I guess, actually. It seems like he's the only one who doesn't ever interrupt the judge and is like, but you actually can't do this because I say so.
So Nimby is a pain, but she's not Pain.
Yeah. Exactly. Twilight watched the proceedings with a morbid fascination that turned into slight amusement as she had thought of a pretty funny way to kill off all of her least favorite board members. Even as
including Rarity.
Yeah, including Rarity. Even as
It may be also the way to end the story. Like, she would win the vote because she killed all the guys who were against her. It's like, fuck. And then she shoots Rarity, and then it's like, oops, now I lose the vote.
That would be a pretty great way to end. Even as the fate of her home hung on the ruling of the board, she could not help but laugh internally. Laughing maniacally. How disorganized the hearing had become.
Right, okay, that could also be a thing. Maybe, like, Nimby is Queen Chrysalis, and Jimpy is actually Discord.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, all of these are actually super villains. I mean, Rarity's already a super villain, so that's not a thing.
And Sombra's, like, disembodied horn is just one of them. Let's see. Well, one part of her mind was laughing. Another part was already churning out ways that the hearing and the ordinances that she had committed to memory in preparation for the hearing could be streamlined and organized. First, she thought casually would be booting Nimby and Yimby from the board. See?
And to the moon.
And to the moon. Cobblestone spoke slowly and quietly, so every pony had to strain to hear him.
Why would he do that?
I don't know.
It's like, can you stop whispering, you douchebag?
I guess you gotta speak.
I have like an ear disease.
Well, you gotta do it. Remember, be the old man, Sapare.
Feel further consideration.
He smiled at Twilight.
Slightly creepy boy. I am reversing my position on the castle's stylistic conflict with its surrounding. If we have exceptions for a cloud home, that is really ugly, mind you, that lends precedence to making an exception for Twilight's just as ugly castle. In fact, we can make a whole town based on being ugly.
Just like
and
that.
I am the king.
Just like that one episode that Rarity went insane.
Which one?
You know, she, Spike got her the book that was actually evil, and she,
Oh, I totally suppressed that episode ever existing. I forgot it even existed till you brought it up.
Jeez.
It's funny because I still remember, Out of the Dress and whatnot, but I don't remember that one.
That's interesting. Well, not really sure what to say about that episode, but it was a thing. She covered the town in, crystals and a bunch of gaudy jewels and stuff.
Yeah, she has no reason to speak anymore out about stuff looking ugly.
Exactly. If that's what she wants to do to the town, you'd think that instantly would get her kicked off of the Happy Home Association or whatever. Nimby's face contorted and her right eye twitched. Nervously, she went into a state of shock.
She is really hardcore about this.
Or Twilight's already...
Cover took it better than she does.
Seriously. Even Edgeworth, who turns into a zombie in the middle of court, takes it better. Additionally is the... Let's see. Oh, wait, sorry, that's you.
It's me?
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, as the castle was brought forth by the Tree of Harmony, it is obviously building of great historical value to the town and the Everfree region, and should be treated as such. I mean, shouldn't that argument alone have won this case? Like,
Yeah,
that's pretty much the defining argument.
exactly. Yeah, you think so. That seems to be the most important argument. It's like it kind of is already a great historical landmark right there. And honestly, I'm pretty sure that's the kind of thing that would get you tourists. Yeah, you'd get a huge
Tourists and
tourist.
taillists.
You get a huge tourist industry.
Tourist attraction.
I was going to say tourist injury, but I think that's not quite right. Twilight and Cobblestone exchanged warm and fuzzy smiles. Nimbly was silent for a moment, her mouth agape as she suddenly started foaming at the mouth. She sighed.
Sometimes I don't even know when you're reading the text anymore, when you are not. Like, I actually thought the warm and fuzzy smiles was weird for a moment.
Yes.
Then I was asking what fuzzy, like how a smile can be fuzzy, but then, I don't know.
Who doesn't love a fuzzy smile?
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. Nevertheless, she sighed and accepted the verdict. Very well, Cobblestone. Can we have the official vote on the first court then? Huh?
Your sigh always sounds like a zombie.
Thank
Your sigh always
you.
sounds like
Well, I was trying to make her sound very angry, so, you know.
But yeah, zombies don't always sound angry.
Well, yeah. I guess. The four other members of the board nodded. A simple up and down vote led to the castle's first violation being dropped from the list of ordinance violations. Nimby stared angrily, burning with frustration at Twilight. There were still several violations to get through, and Nimby knew some of them had to stick. Her brother was in her pocket for all of them. So I knew that was an issue. I knew. This bitch is straight up evil.
I'm confused.
Her brother's in her pocket. She's like, you know... She's like paying him off, except with just being related. So, you know... He is going to agree on anything she votes. Her brother was, Yimby.
Wait, Yimby is a guy?
Yeah. Yimby is a guy.
What the fuck kind of name is that for a guy?
Well, you could ask the same for female. What kind of name is
But
Yimby in general? Yeah.
How many guys do you know that start with a Y?
None. Actually, that's
I'm pretty sure the Chinese people are gonna try to kill me, but whatever.
Yeah, Chinese is the only one I think of, like yin and, you know, yang and wan.
Yin and yang. Should probably two names that have never existed.
Probably.
I've got yin and I've got yang.
I don't know. I would totally call my kids that, except not really.
No way. I didn't know he was a guy. But that puts a completely new, like, point of view on this.
Does it now?
But if we know how she pays them.
Oh, I see. It's pretty gross because they're old. Ew. No.
Maybe meant like with like cupcakes, right?
Yeah. Of course.
She's
that's
actually
what I was
Pinkie Pie.
thinking. Exactly. The next topic of this hearing, Nimby said firmly, is the castle's violation of Ponyville's ordinance restricting building height. As I hope you're aware, Miss Sparkle, the ordinance states that... Nimbly cut...
Nimbly cut Nimbly off.
Yes.
No building shall be more than 40 meters in height from the structural ground base to the roof height, and no more than 45 meters to the architectural height, so as A, to maintain the integrity of the town hall, the center of the town, and B, to avoid the obstruction of the view of Canterlot Castle and Canterlot Mounds from the roof of every structure in the Ponyville city limits for the benefit of town citizens.
Jeez.
Unless it's a tree.
That sounds really complicated. You, like, have to see the pony... Like, that's some complicated building structures, is if everyone has to be able to go on their roof and look at the, you know, freaking... Yeah, Canterlot Castle.
So I'm like, didn't wasn't that tree also kind of big?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's probably trees that blocked houses. I mean, honestly...
But I meant the tree as in the library tree.
Oh, yeah, actually the library tree is a pretty similar size, and the other thing I was thinking was Town Hall itself, when that blocks
But the Town Hall is the Town Hall is excused.
Yeah.
Because it's a Town Hall.
Yeah. I suppose so. I'm just saying that, you know, this is such an apparently important rule. They have to see Canterlot Mountains or they'll die. So,
I mean, I don't have any objection to overseeing the throne of... I don't know. You can always look at, like, Zed and be like, Celestia is watching us.
Yeah, that's fair.
Stealing Celestia.
Stealing Celestia watches you work. Twilight opened her eyes after having them closed throughout her re-incantation of the ordinance and smiled happily. Her grin was met with a scorn from Nimby and a stifled giggle from Rarity.
Because Rarity didn't even know half of that.
Exactly. She was just like, these rules sound funny. Nimby gave an audible as she adjusted her papers in front of her.
I like those unaudible hymns.
I don't even know how you make those. Just like... I am glad you know the ordinance so well. That was an obvious lie to every other pony in the room. Yeah, thanks.
Can I hold her in contempt of court?
I know! She's lying, clearly contradicting the facts with her statement. The other members of the council knew Nimby hated being upstaged. On her knowledge of Ponyville's municipal code. Then you should know that there shall be no exceptions to this height restriction, and your castle is approximately triple the maximum height.
Jeez, wait, how tall is this damn castle?
I don't know. According to her statement, it's 120 feet high.
Meters.
Oh, meters? Is that what she said?
It was a meters, not in feet.
Okay. So apparently apparently it is at least 120 meters high. Which sounds like quite a bit.
High. That's really damn high, yeah.
I'll take your word.
Even more high than Spy, yes, for sure.
Jeez. That is pretty high, I can't deny that. Twilight opened her mouth to start her argument against Nimbly, but was interrupted. This is...
I will get to you once I figure out where
No,
I am.
I'm sorry, it was Rarity.
Okay.
But, Nimby, the obstruction really isn't that bad. I've spent a lot of time in that castle, and it doesn't block the view of Canterlot at all from large parts of Ponyville. Was Rarity coming to Twilight's defense.
I don't get why she points out that she spent a lot of time inside the castle. What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. Apparently the view from inside the castle lets her know.
Because that's obviously the view is fine from inside the castle. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that really doesn't. But that's Rarity for you. That's her knowledge of how law works. It's like, well, it doesn't affect me, so it's not really an issue now, is it?
Yeah, she should just say that. She's like, well, she's my friend, so screw you.
Twilight cast a worried but thankful glance at Rarity, who simply smiled and winked at Twilight as she caught her eye.
Paying the big buzzes, Twilight.
Jeez.
Owned at least like $2 million.
Twilight catching your eye, it sounds pretty painful. Are you kidding? Nimby turned to Rarity. That monstrosity casts a shadow that reaches all the way to the central square in the mornings. The walls are barely translucent, despite being crystal, and what light does flitter through only disorientates every pony.
Okay, now just imagine them all like, oh no, the light is like everywhere. They're just like running around in circles hitting walls.
Probably so. I am thinking like that one episode, The Terror! The Terror!
It's just running around, yeah.
That's
another thing that I was gonna point out is imagine if it magnified the light, so like actually look at the crystals literally makes you blind by like burning your eyes out. And you're like, it's not such a big deal.
It's all
like,
right.
imagine if she actually was correct about like everything. Nobody was like completely 100% correct, but everyone just a bitch to her.
Yeah, that would be funny if the story just ends with someone like going blind and hitting their head on the castle. I don't want to think. I have head trauma and am seeing colors every time I walk by the castle. Well, you have head trauma already, so, you know, it's fine. Rarity in Twilight frowned. The more Twilight dwelled on that, the more she realized that for the first time today, Nimby had a point, I guess. Twilight had taken...
Twisters have way more points.
Exactly. I think I'd like to show one to Nimby, Twilight thought. But she had taken a few morning walks and noticed how the edges of the castle played with the sunlight on the streets below. It wasn't nearly as pretty as when the sun shone in the atrium or through the stained glass windows in the rooms on the upper floors. Twilight had to admit, and because it wasn't as pretty, automatically means it was blinding and terrible.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I don't know why they don't just like get Celestia to like walk a little bit across to make them more pretty.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Like, you could polish them, you could like add, I don't know,
Spike could polish every single piece of that castle.
Exactly. He was probably gonna do that anyways. Well, Miss Sparkle, do you have anything to add? Nimbly grumbled. Twilight looked around at the council. Nimbly and Yimbly still scowled. Cobblestone had fallen asleep. What? Cobblestone, man, you have some issues.
Well, really, maybe this is literally how every single day at this concert goes.
Yeah, probably so. And was barely holding his head up on the table with his four hooves. Considering how often the town gets destroyed, I imagine these are actually some pretty busy people.
Right, so he's pretty amazing that he can hold his head up on his fours while being asleep.
You know, yeah. Normally that's the point that your, like, hooves, you know, you kind of bang your head on the desk, yeah. Rarity was giving Twilight a consoling look. Greenbilt's grin had faded somewhat, but only somewhat. Twilight was sad to see the young stallion's political idealism being... it's just being shattered
This
so
guy
quickly.
did not exactly have the highest, like resistance stat.
This guy is like a freaking Phoenix Wright. He's, or actually even more, he's more like Mia Fey or Maya Fey. He's just like, man, someone made a statement. This is gonna be tough, Phoenix Wright. I don't know if he can handle it.
It's panic time. When I wanted circus, like getting a chicken.
But such was the way of the world, and Greenbelt would learn that eventually. But not today.
He would learn eventually that his life was completely pointless.
Yeah. It would be a tragic day. But a day that wasn't included in this story for reasons. Twilight sighed. She had one chance left. Well, 2 chances. But the second was only a last resort. She wanted to see if she could win before she killed everybody. But the first last chance was the emotional peel. Why was that your first last chance? Can't you just, like... apparently, emotional peel is before logic. She stood up slowly from her chair to address the board. Nimby, Yimby, Rarity...
Rabbit. Why? Why Greenbud? Wait, how did she fuck up button? the green belt is also misspelled.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, green belt, I can almost understand, though it is pretty funny. It's green bolt. But I don't know how you accidentally put a comma between, like, in the middle of Rarity's name.
Guess he didn't like Rarity.
I guess not. So, Rarit Y and Green Bolt, the newest members of the
It's
board.
just got very quickly reshuffled.
Yep. Oh, and Cobblestone, I guess. Oh, Twilight recited the names of
Actually,
every
I was supposed to
member.
read those
Oh.
in hindsight, but whatever.
Sorry, whatever.
We got distracted.
Great. Pretty much what happens constantly. Twilight recited the name of every member of the Ponyville Zoning Control Board to get their full attention. Cobblestone woke with a start and adjusted his thick glasses to avoid suspicion. Because
Krista Casa that
Oh, sorry.
the Krista Casa that I now call home does violate the height restriction. That much is obvious, and I'm not willing to cut off over half of the casa that the tree of and I'm not willing to cut off over half of the casa that the Tree of Harmony so graciously gifted me in order to bring it under compliance. No, I will stand firm, because this is my home.
Yeah. America. Twilight stamped...
America's all about fucking the rules.
Yeah. Twilight stamped a hoof on the floor and raised her voice with conviction.
After the Golden Oaks Library was destroyed, I could have left. Even after Tyrek was destroyed and forgave me my castle. Could have said no and returned to Canterlot. I had, and I still have a welcoming home there, with Celestia and my family. But I didn't. I accepted the castle that the tree bestowed upon me, and do you know why?
The board was rapt with attention now as Twilight's speech rang through the room and into the hallway.
Because it's a pretty damn sweet-ass castle, bitch. I stayed here and moved into the castle because of some attachment to the building itself. Not because of some attachment to the building itself. I stayed because I feel a connection to Ponyville, to my friends.
Where Twilight stared fondly at Rarity, who was tearing up and tearing
I don't
up.
just mean my personal friends. I mean every single one here who pays me taxes. When I came to Ponyville 4 years ago, I didn't have anyone except Spike, who I don't like, and my brother, who's a bitch. Now I'm about to call every single pony in Ponyville my friend. Sacrificed a lot to save this town multiple times. I never asked for any special treatment other than all of your books and quiz and papers until now. As is one thing, I let my home stand as it is. That is all I ask of you. It once more gesture to reaffirm that I am welcome in this town. Please let me make my home in Ponyville again.
Twilight looked at the ponies across from her. Greenbelt, Rarity, and Cobblestone were sobbing.
Okay, so all whiners. I fucked up the speech a little bit,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have broken out into tears either way.
I don't think I would have either. It is pretty funny that, like, everyone just immediately broke into tears. Even Yimby had broken down and was crying softly.
Jeez. This style is totally the bottom.
He totally is. He's like, no, what have I been doing with my life?
I mean, why didn't I spend my whole life running after Twilight instead?
Exactly. Only Nimby remained staring defiantly at Twilight, but not for
It's
long.
amazing.
Apparently so.
Like, her determination is just completely out there.
It really is. She clearly is that villain that's just like, you know, I imagine she literally has never been happy about anything. Like, someone probably comes in and they're like, hey, can I add windows to my house? And she's like, no, fuck you.
Because Windows is a terrible operating system.
Windows sucks.
And no one asked what she meant, but they all still agreed anyway.
Miss Sparkle, I don't know how many sob story, please, you think I've heard over my decades as a municipal administrator.
I figured it out.
Huh.
She is a hater from the real world who went into a portal and ended up in Equestria, then became Queen Chrysalis and is now taking his revenge on Twilight.
Makes sense to me. That explains everything. But let me tell you, yours is not the first, and it certainly was not the best.
Like at those one guys, the woman was like, I have 4 children, my husband died in the war to save Equestria, and this is the last home we have, it's the only thing he left me, I have no money, if you tear it down I will have nothing, my children will die on the street or become whores.
And
tear down the house.
Yeah, even then. I laughed at her sob story. And since you'll admit you will not rectify the ordinance violation in question, I am required as chair, the 100th chair to be exact, of the Ponyville Zoning Board, to order the castle condemned pending demolition. Rarity leapt over the table to punch Nimby in the face.
That's actually from what I thought it said. Not exactly that, but I was like, what is she doing? Okay.
Nimbly quietly ushered the other members of the board out of the room to adjourn the hearing. I don't think you could just do that as head of the board. Say fuck everyone else's opinions. I do what I want.
Right.
I could be wrong. I mean, admittedly, that's exactly how it works in Phoenix, right? There's no jury, just a judge.
The judge is the jury and the executioner.
Exactly. Oh, darling, I am so sorry.
That's why I always want to find everyone Cody. He really enjoys executing people.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he has to use that gavel for something aside from calling, whatevers.
Okay.
Rarity said, hugging Twilight. Twilight softened at Rarity's embrace.
Right, normally people are hard in Rarity's place.
I don't know, but I guess Spike does, yeah. But her despair was overshadowed by her hatred of Nimby. As Nimby looked back at Twilight and Rarity as she left the room,
She walked into the doorway because she was looking at the Twilight while walking out of the room.
Yeah, actually, that'd be pretty funny. That really must. She needs to be more careful. You'd think working in this building for like 100 years, she would know where the door is by now. A fire lit in Twilight's eyes that she had not felt in years. Okay.
Is this gonna turn into punishments after all?
I hope so. Twilight silently swore to Nimby that she would get an exemption for the castle no matter what, and that Nimby's hide would be displayed on her castle for all to see.
Would that be considered being like a little bit out of place for Ponyville?
I assume so. Twilight left the room and walked slowly to the atrium. But hey, it would solve the light issue if she just put, like, a bunch of hides over the castle.
Jeez. It's just halfway.
Yeah. Left the room and walked slowly to the atrium of the town hall where Spike was waiting for her. She promptly bitch-slapped Spike. Rarity followed her to console her, but Twilight brushed her off with a brief.
Everything will be fine.
Twilight gathered Spike, and they left the town hall to go back to the castle. Ooh,
so how did the hearing go?
I think we need to end here. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next time on the surprisingly long Ponyville Zoning Board.